Nearly 50 days now since Savannah Guthrie's mother disappeared. That suspected abduction remains unsolved tonight. But we've learned investigators have recovered additional images from Nancy Guthrie's surveillance cameras.
Before anything went wrong, everything felt normal. That's what makes this case so unsettling. On Saturday, January 31st, 2026, Nancy Guthrie followed a routine she had probably repeated dozens of times. At 5:32 p.m., she ordered an Uber from her home in Tucson, Arizona, heading just 4 miles away to her daughter Annie's house. A simple evening, family dinner, board games, laughter.
Welcome back, everyone. In Arizona now, the Guthrie family is asking the Tucson community for their help in finding their missing mother. They're asking folks all across the country. Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, was last seen January 31st.
And by all accounts, that's exactly what it was. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, which is precisely why investigators focused so heavily on what happened next. Because Nancy didn't disappear randomly. She disappeared from within a timeline.
We're back with Savannah Guthrie's first interview since her mom, Nancy, disappeared. On Today, she described the pain of not knowing what happened the night her mother was abducted from her home in Tucson.
The timeline that doesn't add up. By 9:48 p.m., Nancy was back home. A family member had driven her, watched her go inside, and left. Surveillance confirmed it. Her garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50. She was inside, safe, accounted for. And then, nothing. No calls, no messages, no movement. For nearly 4 hours, complete silence. Because at 1:47 a.m., her doorbell camera disconnected. At 2:12 a.m., motion sensors detected a figure near the house. And by 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker stopped transmitting. That's not just a gap. That's a window where everything happened, and nobody knows exactly what. The last phone call that changed everything. When FBI analysts reviewed Nancy's phone records, one entry stood out immediately. It didn't fit the pattern. Her final call. The last communication she ever made traced back to someone who had been inside that house just hours earlier. And in that moment, the investigation shifted. Because suddenly, this wasn't about an unknown intruder breaking in from outside. It became about timing, proximity, and access. The kind of access only someone familiar could have. That call sat right before the unexplained 4-hour gap. Investigators now believe whatever was said during that call may directly connect to what happened next. It wasn't just the last call, it was the turning point. The suspect everyone got wrong. Almost immediately, the internet decided it had solved the case. One name dominated every discussion. Nancy's son-in-law, Tommaso. He drove her home. He was the last confirmed person to see her alive. But Tommaso had been part of the family for nearly 2 decades. A teacher, a musician, a father, someone deeply embedded in Nancy's daily life. Even weeks before her disappearance, Nancy had posted smiling family photos with him. Then investigators cut through the noise. Authorities publicly and definitively cleared the entire family, confirmed they had been ruled out within days, and had fully cooperated from the start. But the question didn't disappear. If it wasn't them, then who had that level of knowledge? The crime scene that raised more questions. When investigators entered Nancy's home, they were walking into evidence. Blood droplets on the front porch, confirmed to be Nancy's. Glass fragments near the entrance, signs of forced entry, and a doorbell camera that appeared to have been deliberately tampered with. The crime scene was released too early. Investigators had to return and collect evidence missed the first time. A roof-mounted camera, potentially critical, was overlooked entirely. Footage, initially declared unrecoverable, was later retrieved by the FBI through back-end systems. The masked figure in the night. Eventually, investigators released images. Grainy black and white stills of a figure moving through the night. A man, approximately 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 11, average build, wearing a ski mask and gloves. He carried a black Ozark Trail backpack. Ordinary, almost deliberately unremarkable. But the more investigators looked, the less ordinary he seemed. He was armed. He moved with purpose. And he appeared to understand exactly where he was, the placement of cameras, the layout of the property, the timing of movement. This wasn't someone improvising. This was someone prepared. And preparation suggests intent. The ransom that knew too much. Then the case took another turn. A ransom note arrived. Not handwritten, not delivered physically, but sent digitally. Clean, structured, precise. It demanded $6 million in Bitcoin. But the amount wasn't the most alarming part. It was the detail. The note included information never made public. What Nancy was wearing that night, the location of her Apple Watch, specific features of the property. This wasn't guesswork. It was knowledge. That forced investigators to confront an uncomfortable possibility. Whoever wrote that message either had inside access or had been close enough to see everything firsthand. The theory that changes everything. One theory began to stand out. What if this wasn't supposed to be a kidnapping? What if it started as a home invasion, a plan that went wrong, a situation that escalated, and the ransom demand was a rushed attempt to reshape it afterward? That would explain the inconsistencies, the sudden silence, the digital communication, the shifting demands. Because this wouldn't be a clean plan. It would be a reaction to a mistake. And reactions are rarely perfect. The DNA that led nowhere. A black glove found 2 miles from Nancy's home. Inside, it was DNA. For a moment, it looked like the case had found direction. But when investigators ran the sample through the national database, there was no match. The individual had likely never been arrested for a qualifying offense. Then came the real complication. The DNA from the glove didn't match DNA recovered from Nancy's home. 2 separate profiles, 2 separate individuals. Suddenly, the case wasn't about one person anymore. It was about the possibility of multiple people, and that changes the scale of everything. The evidence that refused to speak. Inside the house, the forensic picture only became more tangled. Most DNA made sense: family members, workers, people with legitimate reasons to be there. But mixed within were traces that didn't resolve cleanly. Multiple contributors, overlapping profiles. Experts say this is where cases often stall. When a sample contains mostly one person's DNA with only a small fraction from someone else, isolating that signal becomes extremely difficult. It's not just about having evidence. It's about being able to read it. And in this case, the evidence is there, but it's not speaking clearly. A family waiting for answers. While investigators searched, Nancy's family was left in a different kind of uncertainty. Her daughter, Savannah, stepped away from everything: her career, her public life, just to focus on finding her mother. In emotional appeals, the family spoke directly to whoever had taken her, not with anger, but with urgency. They asked for proof she was alive. They said they were ready to listen, ready to pay, ready to do whatever it took. But as days turned into weeks, the silence didn't break. The call that still holds the key. After everything, the evidence, the theories, the searches, one detail continues to sit at the center of it all. That final phone call. Somewhere inside that call is context, possibly intent, maybe even the moment everything shifted. But its full details remain unknown to the public. And until they're revealed, the most critical piece of this case is still just out of reach. Nancy Guthrie didn't just disappear. She vanished within a narrow window of time. Investigators can't explain. A call, 4 hours, a figure in the dark, evidence pointing in every direction at once. Which leaves us here, looking at the same timeline, asking the same question. Are investigators getting closer, or is the most important detail still missing?